On to the Eagles now. For some former Eagles, this time of year brings back some bad memories. Following their Super Bowl 39 loss to the Patriots, many speculated Donovan McNabb and Terrell Owens would be right back on the big stage. But you remember that offseason? Finger-pointing, blame, turmoil, and a T.O. drive-away press conference? The Eagles didn't even make the playoffs the next year. And Donovan McNabb knows why.
That was something that kind of broke us up. That was the most frustrating for me because I knew what we could do, and if we decided to just come together, what we'd be able to accomplish.
You and T on talking terms, or what's the relationship like now?
Hey, I give a nice peace sign and keep it moving. I respect his time. I love my time. And there's no need for me to try to dust off anything that happened in the past, because what was in the past is in the past.
Well, that ignited this. T.O. responding to the clip by tweeting, "Oh, expletive. I can't wait to tell my story. I'm bringing popcorn. I'm doing sit-ups. I'm going to eat a couple cans of chunky soup. This guy's a joke talking about I broke up the Eagles. Did you tell him that you vouched for the Eagles to pay Westbrook, but not me? It's on."
Oh, what?
Well, lucky us, because the aforementioned Westbrook is sitting to my right.
How did I get in that?
What was,
I thought he was talking about Russell Westbrook. Now I'm really excited. All right.
This makes it even more convenient.
Absolutely.
What was your reaction to how all that went down?
Well, first of all, and listen, these are two guys, and I love Donovan. I've known him for a very long time, and T.O.'s a really good friend of mine as well. So to see these guys still feuding about something that happened in 2004, 2005, to me, it's disappointing, because I thought they had moved way past this years ago, and I think for it to continue to come up, it's just disappointing to see two of my guys that I respect and two of the best players that I ever played with still arguing about whose fault it is and things like that. Here's my opinion, quite honestly. I think that T.O. signed a contract before he came to Philadelphia his last year in San Francisco. He wanted that thing to be guaranteed the last couple years in Philadelphia. And Joe Banner had the opportunity to say, okay, T.O., you broke your leg, you came back, you played in the Super Bowl, and you balled out. You were the best wide receiver in the game all year long. We're going to just guarantee the last 2 years. We don't have to fight about it. We don't have to discuss anything. And at that point, Donovan doesn't have to go vouch for this guy and that guy. And, I think if I'm Donovan, he probably felt, well, you see T.O.'s work. You've seen what he's done. Why does anybody need to vouch for him? His word, Donovan's word, wouldn't have helped T.O. at all. The stats, the numbers say everything that you need to see. He was the best receiver in the game. They should have guaranteed the contract, and I think that's the one thing that T.O. was waiting for. Joe Banner didn't do that. So I don't put blame on Donovan for that. I put more blame on Joe Banner for not guaranteeing the last 2 years, because we had a great nucleus of guys. We talked about how small the window is when we talked about Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid. Those windows close very quickly. You have to make the most of your team. We had a great team, and to that same thought, I thought we were there in the Super Bowl in 04. We just returned the next year. A lot of crazy things happened. We didn't go back to the NFC Championship game back into 08.
But here's the other thing I'll say, and obviously you've lived it. You're the expert. This is me watching from afar. And listen, I know T.O. I've talked with T.O. on and off the air. I thought T.O. having to wait on the Hall of Fame was a travesty.
It's a joke. That was a joke.
I think he is, by any measure, one of the 5 greatest receivers of all time. By any measure. And you could argue even higher than that, right?
I would say top 3 in my mind.
You certainly could make that argument. And so I have total respect for what he accomplished on the field. But if I'm the quarterback of a team, and there is someone that I need to vouch for, whether it will help or not, it is not just about production. It is about, what is your track record? What is your history? How good of a teammate you are? When you leave here eventually, are you going to start crushing folks, as is your history? It is a no-brainer I vouch for Brian Westbrook over Terrell Owens. There is a reason that certain guys continue on a path of why is everyone against me, and certain guys continue everywhere they go to be, oh my God, I didn't know Brian, but I didn't know Brian a year ago.
Right. And
now if someone asks me about him, I'm like, oh, man, that's a great dude. It's a pleasure to be around, reliable, all these things. And so always there has been, and I know he'll get mad, but it's the truth. And I tell him this, a lack of self-awareness for Terrell Owens. Sometimes the whole world's against you, but sometimes you bring some of it on yourself.
And sometimes that line gets cloudy because you keep putting it out there that the whole world is against you, and people start seeing.
And I happen to think, maybe I'm wrong, if his exit in San Francisco was a little different, and if the way, because nobody questioned how tough he is or how great of a player he was, if he comported himself a little bit different, if they would have been more willing to guarantee that money. Because of course it came down to money. It always comes down to money, especially when you play in a Super Bowl on a broken damn leg and you play great and you say, I put myself out there for risk with no money guaranteed, now guaranteed. I get why he was angry about it, but as is often the case, he turned, to me, Brian, a rightful gripe into something where he turns into the bad guy because of how he responded to it. And this is another instance. Donovan didn't have to say the things he said, but they weren't out of bounds. But then T.O. comes over with an over-the-top hammer, not just the tweet with your name, but other tweets involved. And again, we're talking about, why is he acting like this?
I hate seeing these guys. Again, I love these guys. I hate seeing them do that, especially over Twitter. These guys see each other from time to time at Super Bowls, at different events. They certainly have the opportunity to kind of clear the air, and I thought it was cleared. I just wish they can come back together because, again, we're talking about two of the best players in Philadelphia Eagles history, and now they're feuding over on Twitter. That just doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah, but do you think it's going to happen?
No, it won't. It won't. It won't happen. But it should. I'll tell you what, one of the most disappointing things in my career as a player is that I wasn't old enough and mature enough to bring two guys that I know we needed to be successful together. And, you know, it was a point. I love T and I love Don. I couldn't bring them together for the success of our team. That's one of the biggest failures that I had in my career as a player. I wasn't old enough, wasn't mature enough at the time.
Well, thanks for sharing that. All right, we got to take a break. Coming up, did Zion's historic debut prove that he'll be an MVP?
Credit to Pelicans not rushing it. They would have been real easy to leave him in there, but they stuck with their plan.
Yep. All right, on to the NFL now. And after 16 seasons and 2 Super Bowl wins, quarterback Eli Manning has decided to hang it up. The Giants quarterback will hold a press conference tomorrow to officially announce his retirement. But the former #1 overall pick and probable Hall of Famer is calling it a career. Nick, right move by Eli right now?
I never have changed this belief. The right time for an athlete to retire is not a moment before the athlete wants to retire. If Eli wanted to say, I'd like to go be a backup in Tampa, good for him. It is not my career. It is not my business. I'm happy for Eli if he got everything he wanted out of his career. I do wonder if you would have told him, given him 3 years ago the information on how the next 3 years were going to go, if he would have called it a career earlier. I don't know the answer to that. With it going in and out of the line, getting benched for Geno Smith a couple years ago, there were a few moments where you feel like he deserved a little better, but he's walking away somewhat on his own terms. It's a career that will be a hotly debated whether or not it was a Hall of Fame career, but he will be a Hall of Famer in my mind. And so if it's the right move for him, it's the right move.
I think he is a Hall of Famer. Over 50,000 yards, over 300 touchdowns. All the quarterbacks that have those types of credentials, they're in the Hall of Fame. So Eli, in my mind, is a Hall of Famer. Obviously, 2-time Super Bowl MVP. That's impressive. But you're right. Anytime an athlete says this is enough, that's when it's time to hang up. Not 1 minute, but not 1 moment before. I'm happy for Eli as long as he's happy with it. 16 years playing in New York, that's a hard thing to do.
All right, from one of the greats then to one of the greats now, Lamar Jackson. After an incredible first season as a starter, Lamar will run away with MVP honors. Pun fully intended there. But once again, he isn't satisfied, saying, quote, I got to work on everything. I'm not the best. I'm not the greatest. Nick, how much better can Lamar get in year 3?
Well, it's going to be almost impossible to have a better season than the one he just had, but he can improve. He's got one legitimate weakness to his game right now, which is deep outside the numbers passing and deep downfield passing. That he actually is a pretty good deep ball, but like the contested tight window throws. And that was the question coming out of college, and it remains something of a question. I think it's going to be, I'm a little concerned for Lamar and the way he's going to be talked about next season in this regard. I don't think he will be the MVP next year. I don't think he will duplicate the production that he had this season. When Mahomes had that step back year statistically, no one doubted his overall talent. I think because there were more question marks about Lamar coming in, if he has a similar step back that Patrick did after his MVP in year 2, I think people will start to say, see, he wasn't as good. So I do think he can improve. I don't think it's realistic to say he's going to have a better season. He had one of the greatest seasons, dual threat, we've ever seen from a quarterback.
I think Lamar has the makings of some of the greatest players ever. These same type of characteristics, gotten better every single year he's been in the league. He's done that. But the willingness to say, okay, I have a hole in my game and I need to fix that. Everything that he said after the season was, I haven't been the best passer, I can get better, and I'm going to do that in the offseason. We saw his improvement from last year to this year. That's what you want from a young player. You want him to say, I'm not perfect, I have a lot of good pieces around me, I do a lot of good things. However, I have some holes in my game and I want to get better. Lamar has admitted that. That's the first step to getting better. I mean, I'm looking forward to him in the future as far as his development. That will continue to get better as he goes on.
All right, to the 49ers now. Jimmy Garoppolo has a pretty manageable to-do list for next week's Super Bowl. 1, keep pace with reigning MVP Patrick Mahomes. 2, we'll see number 1. Mahomes is running a high-powered Chiefs offense that can score at will. The one thing Jimmy G has on his side, though, statistics. He's got the highest passer rating in the NFL when his team is trailing by a touchdown. Nick, do you trust Garoppolo if Super Bowl 54 comes down to him?